Okay, well, welcome to Fletcher Faces of Community, Spring 2016. We're actually very delighted to see so many people in the auditorium. Some of you, this is forced, but for the others that are coming voluntarily, thank you for doing so. This is actually the end of my third year teaching this course, and 11 sections. And we innovated with this Faces of Community 2 semesters ago, where we said we're watching so many amazing and inspiring speeches that we should try and have some of these speeches for a larger community. And sometimes, like Anais, your speech was heard by 10 people because you were outside of class. So this is a forum even for some of your classmates to get a chance to hear these speeches. It's also a fabulous forum for students who put in that effort and create a speech that I say that will make their grandkids proud, to have another opportunity and do it TED style. So I'm very proud of this event, and I'm really excited about it. So thank you for taking time right after spring break. And we have a fabulous cast of characters and speeches coming up. Okay, so we have, let's see who's in the house. Okay, so how many Arts of Communication Spring Section 1 students in the house? Section 1 is the morning. That's a good question halfway, right? Tuesday, Thursday, 11. Okay, now let's hear your cheer. Where's Section 1? Okay. Now is the evening to Wednesday section in the house? Okay. Are there any Arts of Communication alums in the house? Okay. How about Arts of Communication TAs or ex-TAs in the house? Where's Brad? Brad, where are you at? Okay. How many non-Arts of Communication related Fletcher people in the house? Oh, that's not bad. Okay, great. How many people from the Harvard Graduate School of Education? Per capita, that was really good. Okay. All right. How many how many Tufts University, non-Fletcher Tufts people in the house? Yay, welcome. Okay, now how many people that don't fit in any of these categories? Oh, wait. Okay, yes, we have some guests. How about staff or faculty? Yeah. We got to do that one more time, right? How many staff or faculty in the house? Oh, there we go. There we go. Okay. So as you can see, this is a very diverse group. One more round. How many U.S. citizens in the house? That wasn't the goal. How many citizens of international countries in the house? Okay. Any shout outs for any particular country? Yes? India, there we go. Yay. I don't hear Panama, do I? Rwanda. Where else? France, Mexico, Spain, Panama,
Pakistan, Ecuador,
Bolivia, Japan, Ireland. Where's Ireland? Irish in the house? All right. What else? China, Germany, Greece. There we go. What else? Kenya. Where's Kenya? There we go. Okay. Who else? Any other countries left out? Anyone who's too shy to speak? Sorry?
United Kingdom.
United Kingdom. Okay, well, welcome. Okay, well, your diversity is also reflected in the speakers tonight. We have 11 outstanding speakers. I say it's always difficult to pick, and this is not a value judgment. It's a very subjective decision. We have a very large Arts of Communication group, 84 enrolled students, and a few more auditors. So I think this will happen every semester, but let's just get this going, right? This is the cast of characters that you will see and hear today. Remember, for them, they're basically kind of just told to do this, and they're not TED trained. So let's have as much patience as possible, and let's keep our spirit going. Okay, as in class I give out kind bars for the most enthusiastic class participant. I have news for you. We have kind bars for everyone in the house today. Okay? Each and everyone in the house. So you have no choice but to be an enthusiastic participant here. Okay? If you're got some energy, that just make sure you bring it here, because we will need all your support. This was edition 1 of Faces of Community 2 semesters ago. I see some cast members here. Rachel, you're right here. Who else is? Anyone else here from this group? They've all graduated or are too busy now. Okay. That was edition 1. This was edition 2. You might see a few people here that you recognize. And this is our 3rd edition here. We have a good mix of all 4 speech recitation types. So let me show you this list. And as you can see, it's quite diverse. We have 3 guests in this list. A lot of Fletcher Malls. I don't think there's an MIB in here this time, but there's 2 students from Harvard, 1 from Tufts College, who is in this list. As you can see, the topics are quite diverse, right? Ranging from the power of listening to how to stop contacting your ex. Okay? Some are inspiring, some are engaging, some are entertaining, and most are all of the above. Okay, just some very quick lingo, 2 minutes, as for some of our guests. What we will do this time too is after a speaker completes his or her speech, we will open it up in case you have a question or a comment. This is going to be slightly different from a typical TED talk, so you can engage, interact with the audience member. So just some of arts of communication lingo. You will see the speeches categorized. There are 4 types of speeches. Problem solution is a simple problem and then a solution speech. We have a reframing speech, okay? And reframing is casting something in a different light from what it is conventionally understood as. So for a lot of people, television is a distraction. It's an idiot box, but you can reframe it as a window to the world and as an education catalyst. Okay. A value speech. Now, this is not a list of all your values, but it is a value that you deeply believe in and that comes out through a story of your life. Okay. So we should be able, at the end of the speech, to say, what does this person really believe and why? Okay. And finally, there's a speech to teach, which we have introduced just this semester, which is what it sounds like, a speech to teach. However, the audience for the speech to teach is you. It's not an imaginary audience of, say, 6th grade children or whoever else. It is specifically you. So something that this group can learn and kind of move their needle on an understanding of. We might use this lingo too when people say, okay, I really enjoyed the ethos of that speech. Just fancy words for logical appeal of the speech, credibility, and emotional appeal. These are the 3 criteria by which students plan their speech and that are initially also given feedback by. So logos, ethos, pathos. You might see some of them coming on stage and keeping up with the eye connect so that they'll be staring you down for a few seconds. Don't be afraid. That's part of a class exercise that they may or may not want to continue. But we have a philosophy here is that if you face the enemy early on, then it demystifies your fear and makes you more relaxed. And finally, sound bites. Right, you might hear, that was a great sound bite. A sound bite is a self-contained phrase or a line in a speech that summarizes what has been said and that is memorable after. So it's a powerful line that you can remember right after the speech. This gentleman, George Lakoff, has done some research on framing. If you just Google George Lakoff and you're interested in the subject, you can find out more later. And finally, this is the philosophy that we have for our participants, and we also have for you. Okay, if you're here, you bought the ticket, you bought the movie ticket here, you committed a couple of hours. Let's make sure everyone's having fun, because if we're not all enjoying this process, then something's not working right. Okay. So are we ready to go? Yeah? Are we ready for our first speaker? So Evan, just a couple of lines for him. You know, I was absolutely thrilled after spending an entire semester in a small group last fall with Evan that he agreed to help with the course. Not only is he a TA for the course, he is also helping document and write about the experience that we go through in Arts of Communication. I think the content that we've got primarily through his help is really solid, and I think it has the makings of a book or a paper. So Evan, I want to thank you, and just I think in terms of being an exemplary student and a TA, I mean just everything that is asked of him, he does it, and he does it excellently. I'm just so proud that he's the first speaker for us. Evan has been around the world, including the Appalachian Trails, and he has demonstrated quite a diversity of skills in his speeches. This speech of his is a value speech, and it is called Silence. Let's please welcome our first speaker to the stage.
Can you guys hear me? Oh, great. Hi, everyone. So the speech is entitled Silence. Growing up as an only child, I spent a lot of time alone. I didn't really mind the solitude so much, except for the moments that I spent in bed alone at night. It was in these moments, when my mind had a chance to wander and go wherever it pleased, that I started to confront some of the difficult realities of life. The scariest of these was the recurring realization that I would one day die. Now, this never failed to shock me, no matter how many times it happened, as if the only time that I could access this sort of truth was in bed alone at night. And it filled me with absolute panic. My heart would start to race. I would jump up, flip on the lights, dive on the closest book, anything to distract myself. And it took me a long time to realize that I'm not the only person who thinks about sad or painful things just before bed. My guess is that some of you can relate to this experience. But I don't think it's a coincidence that we have these types of experiences just before bed and not when we're grocery shopping or having lunch with a friend. These are some of the only moments in our lives in which we're truly alone. Now, that's not to say that there may or may not be someone lying next to you. There might be. But the constant thrum of daily life is turned down, and you're able to consider your life and yourself unadulterated by distraction. I believe these moments are sacred. By being alone, we're able to transcend the day-to-day and begin to consider our lives and connect with the reality of being human. Unfortunately, they're becoming more and more scarce. The advent of new technologies allows us to basically live in a state of perpetual entertainment, which means we never need to be alone if we don't want to be. The other day, I was on a bus coming back from Vermont, and I looked to my right, and there was a guy driving a truck. And he had his hands through his steering wheel, and he was holding a smartphone. And he was playing what appeared to be a driving game while he drove down the highway at about 70 miles an hour. Now, I mean, it's funny, but this happens all the time, and we see this in our lives. And I think we chalk it up mostly to technology allowing us to, recover from boredom, essentially, right? I mean, we see this with people texting while driving. But I don't think that pure boredom can explain potentially endangering other people's lives. In the words of the comedian Louis C.K., people would rather risk taking a life and ruining their own than be alone for a moment, because it's so hard. And it is hard, there's no question. But if we spend our lives bouncing from distraction to distraction, never thinking about things like death, I wonder if we can truly appreciate being alive. If we're never alone, I wonder if the inevitable losses that we'll face in our lives will be amplified. Because the truth is that we will be abandoned countless times over the course of our lives. Our dogs will die, family and friends will be lost, and relationships will end. But if we've never learned to be alone, how can we possibly expect to contend with these experiences when they come to us? I learned this lesson, or I was reminded of this lesson last summer, when I faced more sleepless nights, but for a very different reason. In July, I ended a relationship that had been going on and off for about 10 years. Now, my knee-jerk reaction when this happened and this hole opened up in my life was to patch it with the emotional equivalent of Band-Aids. I dove headfirst into another relationship, completely blind. And only after months did I realize that what I needed more than anything was to be alone. to feel pain and sadness and loneliness. And only when I did that was I able to start to mend and also to start getting a little bit more sleep. In the end, I think that being alone allows us to be human, to feel deeply, and to get to know ourselves. It allows us to experience the spectrum of human emotion from sadness and pain to bliss and euphoria. So when you go home tonight and you get into bed, before you take out that book or that Kindle or that phone, take a moment to be alone. Thank you.
Can you just comment on how you picked this topic and how you worked on it?
Sure. So I originally delivered this speech at the end of last semester, and it took me a couple of weeks to sort of land on it. I don't know, my favorite way to think about speeches is sort of letting them come to you almost naturally when you're walking or in the shower or wherever, not, kind of putting pen to paper and thinking about them so consciously. And so I think it was the product of just sort of a couple of different ideas. I knew that I wanted to talk about being alone, and sort of the only child thing came in there. And then I don't think I even talked to anyone about it, and I never actually performed it in front of anyone until I did it last time, which I think was a mistake. But yeah, it was. I think it would have benefited from that. But it was it was an exercise in solitude to some extent.
Any thoughts, questions, comments for Evan? The back there, please.
Did you change the speech from the last time that you gave it?
I did. Well, the driving thing just happened to me like 2 weeks ago, or last week, coming back from spring break. The Louis C.K. quote, I really wanted in there the first time around, and it hurt me not to include it, but I was over for time, and we were a little bit more flexible on time this version. So I also changed the ending with some advice from a friend. So, yeah. It was hung out.
So your delivery was amazing, and I'm just curious. Before last semester, would you have called yourself a good public speaker?
I don't think so. No. I think what's changed is that I don't feel nearly as nervous as I used to, or at least I do up until when I start to speak, and then I feel much more comfortable. So my comfort level and my enjoyment when I do it is totally different. I don't know about quality of speaking, but no.
I mean, it was absolutely appropriate that you ended with a speech that's good for the effort that you put in. Thank you very much. Okay, next up we will go to possibly the youngest member of our system in Arts and Communication. We have two outstanding Tufts College students that are taking the course this semester. Anais is an exceptionally talented student and person. She is absolutely passionate about three things: dance and eating. And there's an introduction. When I say I'm passionate about these things, I am really passionate. She's a championship salsa dancer, and she's a poli-sci and quantitative economics major from Tufts College. The first time, as I said, that Anais delivered her speech, there was only just a few people left. She was the last person in an out-of-class speech. And it was kind of differently able, and it was a pity that there were only that many people ran, because Anais today, we deserve to, and you deserve to have a forum like this, and we're thrilled that you will share the speech with us. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you. Oh, sorry.
There you go.
Yeah, but there's
That's a pressy.
Oh, right.
Should I? Sorry.
Okay, so while Evan gets a prezi up, why don't you,
Sure.
Max says, tell us, Anais, what are the first three words that come to your mind when you hear Fletcher?
So I'm doing impromptu right now.
Yeah. Now that there isn't enough pressure on already.
Okay, I would say fun, diverse, and warm. Yeah.
That is your last question. Slides are up.
Thank you. Okay, so my speech is called People with Special Talents. And I want to dedicate it to Nathan, who unfortunately couldn't come today because he's a very responsible TA. But it's to him. Okay. I want you to close your eyes for a moment. I mean that. Imagine getting through a regular day in your life without opening them once. Going to classes and group meetings, holding office hours and getting meals, suddenly turns into a struggle, right? Now open your eyes. Nathan is the first and only blind student that Tufts University has had so far. But that's not what defines him. He started college at age 16. He's a computer science and international relations double major, a comp sci TA, and a pianist. I became friends with Nathan while working with him as his site guide to help him get around campus. But it turned out that Nathan didn't need my help. If anything, he's been the one helping me. He taught me how to become more aware of my surroundings, how to find solutions to problems the way hackers do, and he even attempted to try to teach me how to use a statistical program. And trust me, it takes courage to try to get me to achieve much with a computer. According to the US Census Bureau, nearly 1 in 5 people in the US, which accounts to about 56.7 million, have a different set of privileges that I will refer to as special talents. Now, can you guess what the people behind me all have in common? Let me tell you, they are some of the most talented people I know. When it came to Nathan, I felt people ask all the wrong questions. That's when I realized how blinded we could be to special talents. Phrases such as, "Let me do that for you," or "It's so great to see you out," or even, "You're so inspiring," suddenly become the natural things to say. We make assumptions based on what we see as missing, as if a tall person could know about the science of being short. This revelation scared me. A special talent lies in adapting to a different set of privileges, whether that's lack of vision and extremity or physical or intellectual capabilities. Our hair color, our height, our race, we don't get to choose those when we're born. Our passions and skills, those we do control. We are what we choose to do. So let's identify others for their special talents. Here's how. Doctors had said that Dani wouldn't be able to walk. Today, she not only walks, but is one of the best party dancers I know. This is her dancing with Enrique Iglesias on stage at a concert, fulfilling the dream of many girls. Fran is my cousin. In his case, doctors had said that he wouldn't be able to talk. Turns out, he's mastered the arts of communication. He truly understood the power of words, so he chose to use them scarcely. So when he says my name, or that he loves me, he's able to transmit much more meaning than most of us could ever dream of. I still don't know whether Nathan was born blind or not, or whether he ever takes his dark glasses off. But I do know that he's an innate hacker, that Dani is an exceptional dancer, and that Fran is a gifted communicator. I am convinced that they will keep succeeding in life because they have the special talents to do so. My only concern is about how others will treat or not treat them by failing to see how gifted they are. Don't fall into that trap. Ignoring special talents is blindness by choice. So whether you know someone with special talents or have one yourself, don't forget to take your dark glasses off and look the right way. Thank you.
Nathan's not here, but we'll have the video.
Yes, I'll show him.
Any thoughts, questions, comments for Anais?
That's okay if not.
Nice, that was beautiful. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
So those were two of the speeches. Next up, we have, after Anais from the college, we have our Masters of Art student in the mid-career program here at Fletcher. Kana Miyamoto is originally from Japan. Interestingly, she spent some time in Spain too, and that has led you to your job where you're at the Embassy of Spain in Japan, or the Embassy of Japan in Spain.
Embassy of Spain in Japan.
Okay, great. So Kana, when she took this class, recreating earthquakes create.
Hello, everybody. Hi. Hello. Hi, Mark. Earthquakes create. So maybe you're thinking, but how? Let me tell you how. According to the US Geological Survey, the world experiences more than 100,000 felt earthquakes per year. Yes, this may seem like a daunting figure, as earthquakes remind us of destruction, but I like to think of it as 100,000 moments of creation. I learned this idea from my grandmother, who lives in earthquake-prone Japan, and who would frequently tell me that rather than being scared or afraid, that I should embrace the fact that earthquakes give valuable resources to the earth. Let me give you some examples. And I'll start by telling you how interesting landscapes have been formed by earthquakes. Back in 1959, an earthquake occurred here in the US in southwest Montana. Rock, soil, debris fell into the Madison River and blocked its flow. Within a few weeks, a scenic lake was created, which not surprisingly is now called Quake Lake. Now, another example on a greater scale is the Great Rift Valley. The Great Rift Valley stretches across thousands of miles from Mozambique to the Middle East, along the fault lines of the African and Arabian Plate, which was also created by earthquakes. This dramatic rift created sites like Mount Kenya and Mount Kilimanjaro, and a series of 30 lakes lies along its length. Out of these 30, 3 of the most famous ones in Africa are called the Great Lakes and include Lake Tanganyika, the second deepest lake in the world, and Lake Victoria, the second largest freshwater lake by surface area in the world. With this unique scenery came along an abundant wildlife, which includes the mountain gorilla that live along the slopes of the Virunga Mountains, flamingos that count 1 million, giraffes, antelopes, and so much more. And this is on a personal note. I've never been there, but without my morning of Kilimanjaro coffee, I'm sure I wouldn't go through my midterms, my finals, and now my capstone. Now let me take you back to my home country, Japan. Hot springs, or onsen, as we call them, are also creations of earthquakes. They're scattered across the country along the fault lines. The water, which circulates along these lines, is heated by the energy generated at great depths. They are very popular among the Japanese, who consider it to have healing properties that cures and prevents illnesses. And my family is also one of them, as a long tradition has been to go to an onsen at the end of December to take away the aches and pains of the year. And just as a fun fact, I can tell you that human beings are not the only ones that enjoy this. This is a real picture of an onsen in Nagano where monkeys bathe. Now let me also tell you how human beings are creating with the effects of earthquakes. Shigeru Ban is a prominent architect from Japan. He is the winner of the 2014 Pritzker Award, and he is known for his humanitarian work and the use of recycled paper for his buildings. What makes Ban's work unique is that he sees earthquakes as moments of creation, as opportunities for people to come together. He has built religious spaces, community centers, and schools in areas affected by earthquakes such as Japan, Nepal, Haiti, China, and New Zealand. And as you can see from the picture, one of his most emblematic works is the Kaba Cathedral in New Zealand, which was built after the 2011 earthquake and still stands now as a religious space. So these are just a few examples of how earthquakes have come to create. And I just want to finish off by telling you, if you ever encounter an earthquake, please don't be afraid and scared. Just remember, earthquakes give, earthquakes create. Thank you.
Well done, Kana. How was this different for you this time than delivering it in the past?
Actually, when I got the notice of doing this, I went and saw my video of the class, and I thought I had done well, but it was really bad. It was really bad. So I said, okay, I have to improve this because it has to be better. So I practiced a lot. Yeah.
Thoughts, comments for Kana?
Anything?
Yes. Megan. As loudly as you can.
Why, thank you. This is a really well-organized, interesting speech, and I was really impressed by your poise, but also your very effective ability to communicate your personal sense of humor, which I think really resonated with the audience. So great job.
Oh, thank you very much. Thank you.
Once a TA, always a TA, huh?
Adam.
Kiana, I was there the first time you gave the speech, and I thought it was great then.
Oh.
And I think it's only gotten better.
Thank you.
So I really appreciated the fact that you gave it today. Thank you.
Oh, thank you.
I think that was Alex here, please. Sorry, Vika.
First of all, thank you for the speech. I
Thank
thought
you.
it was very well done. Have you considered using another venue, maybe somewhere in the diplomatic services, talk about earthquakes and such?
Oh my God, no. I'm just happy that this went through. Okay. Yeah.
It went very well.
Oh, thank you.
Kana, now you can enjoy, relax, and
Yes.
appreciate the other speeches.
Thank you.
Thank you
Thank you very much, everyone.
Okay, next up we have our first cross-registrant, who is actually a two-time All-Star. So her first speech last time was a reframing speech, and Shivani is no stranger to this podium right here. And she's from the Harvard Graduate School of Education. Her speech is entitled P. Shivani has spent quite a bit of time in education. She's passionate about a lot of things, but especially travel, speaking, self-discovery, and the aesthetics. Yes, that's what you had shared anyways. Okay, so next up is Shivani Sen with her speech entitled P, a value speech.
I don't know what's happening again. Okay. I'm going out of my comfort zone here. Okay. So, a couple months ago, I promised my best friend, P, that whenever she was ready, I would hold her hand while she was voluntarily euthanized. This decision came after years of thought and after hours of conversation with her. It was the hardest thing I've ever had to say in my entire life. Let me give you some backstory. P was paralyzed waist down in a car accident at the age of 15. This left her with clinical depression and lifelong excruciating pain. On top of that, a couple years ago, she was diagnosed with a brain tumor. It turned out to be benign, but it wreaked havoc with her hormone levels. She had to drop out of college and now spends her days in and out of hospital. Lately, she's been undergoing electric shock therapy as a last-ditch effort to overcome her depression. I've had a front row seat to this decade-long nightmare. I've talked her off so many suicidal ledges. I've been on the phone with her while she cried for countless hours. I've even helped her research Dignitas, which is a Swiss-assisted dying organization. Despite all this, though, I have never been able to say those words. I have never been able to support her taking this final plunge. I think that's because it conflicts with so many of my core values and beliefs. I believe in courage and in the power of the mind to overcome the worst of tragedies. I believe in hope and in miracle cures coming from unexpected places. I truly believe in a phoenix rising from the ashes. I also believe in gratitude and in seeing the positive. P has a loving family. She has access to the best doctors in the world. And she's lived in places where ubiquitous wheelchair access make a normal life possible. P is also a stunningly gorgeous girl. She's the kind of person that even now has men falling head over heels in love with her on a regular basis. I mean, this girl, she gave me an inferiority complex at the age of 8, before I even knew what those words meant. However, in all this time, I've also grown watching her cope with the accident. I realized that I also believe truly and deeply in the inalienable right to personal freedom. I think that only P knows her pain, and that neither the state, nor her parents, nor I have the right to tell her what to do. I believe in her right to live, and I believe in her right to die. When she called me a few months ago, she said, "Shivani, no one but you understands what I'm going through. I need you to support me because I don't want to die alone." Now, in this moment, in the battlefield of my values, both sides lost. What hit me right in the gut was that the only thing that matters here, the holy grail here, is of unconditional support. My responsibility is to stand by this girl no matter what. There's a reason that whenever she apologizes for calling me crying yet again, I parrot back her favorite quote to her, which is, "For you, 1,000 times over." So, a week after our conversation, she sent me this text message. "I love you. As far as soulmates go, you're mine. Thanks for loving me, many, many, many flaws and all. You always had my back, right from day one." That picture is from 3rd grade. It's my birthday party. It was awesome. Nothing has changed. My unconditional love and support for P is what pulls me out of the self-absorption and the existential apathy that tends to underlie most things I do. So I wait every day. I wait for the phone call that's going to ask me to help end the life of a person that showed me the meaning of mine. Thank you.
Any thoughts, comments?
I have no comment except just to say thank you for sharing. I really appreciate it.
You made me cry.
I'm trying not to right now. Can I get off stage
Yeah,
now?
sure.
Okay.
Okay, thank you, Shivani. Again. Next up, we have Ian Wallace, a member of the current spring evening batch. I'm sorry, the morning batch. Right? Where's Ian? Ian, where are you? Oh, you're getting mic'd up. Okay. Now, Ian is from Tampa, Florida. His concentrations at Fletcher are many, but they also change on a daily basis, as you have mentioned. And he picked a topic that is very practical for everyone going through life here. Right? There's so many things competing for your time. There is the FOMO, the fear of missing out. Right? So what do you do with all the stimulation? And how do you think of blank space? Please welcome Ian Wallace.
Two things. First, that picture is very old. I think the years have aged me, not for the better. And number two, I was actually hoping that Andy Clay would have sang Blank Space before we got started. But I didn't think I gave you the heads up. We have perfected the art of productivity. In the past couple decades, the average work week has gone from a manageable 40 to 50, 60, and sometimes more hours per week. To make up for it all, we sleep less. On average, we're lucky if we get 5, maybe 6 hours of sleep a night. We have technology on our wrists that measure our steps down to our individual steps, and apps on our phone that measure our sleep down to the second. As a society, we are absolutely obsessed with making the most out of each and every moment, with filling this blank canvas that we call life with as much color, with as much vibrant experience as we can possibly allow. For me, I find this most apparent in my calendar. My calendar is my Mona Lisa. It is my masterpiece of efficiency. Each and every day is filled to the brim with different colors representing different experiences and different ways that I will spend my time in a productive manner. Green represents what I'll do for schoolwork. Red represents after-school activities. I even have blue for scheduled fun to make sure I get that out of the way. For me, it was my roadmap to making sure that I lived the most productive life possible. At least that's what I used to think. Because when I took a chance to zoom in and really look at what my calendar represented and the life that it was leading, rather than see this beautiful, glorious picture of a productive and happy life, I was left in a haze. And what I began to notice was that the same exact thing was happening with my time. Because rather than have each moment stand out on its own, each moment represent something special, everything blurred together as one. Sitting in a class in a lecture hall, rather than taking the most that I could out of that lecture, I was thinking about other classes or the homework I had to get done. Dinner with my girlfriend turned into time to check up on email on my smartphone. And she's here, and I apologize. I've said it many times before. I apologize again. Even sitting and watching my favorite TV show turned into time to make sure I was checking again on more emails or thinking about what else I had to do. I was seemingly accomplishing more than ever before, but I was miserable, I was angry, and I was anxious. And if you were to ask me what exactly I was being productive for, I would have no idea where to start. So I took a step back, and I began to look at my blank canvas again, to rethink of my calendar and think, how is it that I could repaint this picture? How could I recreate the life that I wanted to lead? And in doing so, I began to think about a visit to a Chinese art gallery. See, one of the key things that stands out about Chinese art is not the massive amount of strokes that are put onto the canvas, although there are quite a few. It's not the wide array of colors that are used, although those are pretty few. What stands out instead are the strokes that aren't made. It's the space that's left blank. Because it's that blank space that frames the mountain peaks that we see above. It's that blank space that creates the rivers for the boats to ride on. And it's that blank space that gives each and every stroke on that canvas meaning. Keeping that in mind, I again return back to my calendar, return back to my canvas, and begin to think, how was it that I could incorporate that blank space into my life? And what I discovered was that rather than make me less productive, rather than make me less happy, it made everything else worth it. Those chance to have coffee dates with friends that you never wanted to end. Getting lost in a movie that maybe you wouldn't have time for. For instance, maybe a terrible Will Ferrell movie. Not a big fan, but sometimes it's worth it. Or maybe every once in a while, just sitting, thinking, and reflecting. All of those moments made everything else worth it. And so my point really boils down to this. Being productive and living a productive life isn't about filling every single moment with something. Many times, it's making sure the moments you do fill count. And sometimes, that means leaving our calendar just a little bit more blank. Thank you.
Comments for Ian Wallace?
Great job, Ian.
Thanks, John.
I'm in Ian's Arts of Communication class, so I saw the first version, and I really loved the edits you made and the analogy with the Chinese painting. That was stellar. It was really fabulous.
Thank you, Jen.
Hi, Ian. I really enjoyed your speech. It really resonated with me. I was just curious, how are you able to incorporate a little bit of blank space, looking at your calendar and realizing just how much you have to do?
I think a lot of it is having a lot of people around you that are able to really sort of check and make sure that you're doing that. I actually came up with the idea of having a coffee date with my friend Stefan. And at the time I was thinking, I have so much stuff I got to get done. And we actually got in a conversation about this topic and sort of made me really check and make sure that I was keeping that in mind. And a lot of it also goes to my girlfriend, Mary Claire, who makes sure that I have time for her, but also have time for everything else going involved as well. So.
Hi, Ian. That was great. One of the things that stood out to me about this was sort of your phrasing. Was it's not about this. It's about getting the most out. And the way you described the painting in particular, I found really compelling. So I'm curious, I guess, in terms of preparation, because again, there's parts of this is new from when you've previously done it. So I guess I'm curious, sort of your preparation for this. Was it more of, it seemed like you knew the lines pretty well, but you still made it sound very off the cuff. So I don't know.
Yeah, a lot of it was leaning on my team, having Wendy and Tanae in my group, as well as Amanda and Peter, just practicing it over and over again and hearing their feedback, actually sitting down with Stefan too and revisiting that first conversation we had and really making sure I was getting the core of the idea. But a lot of it was just practicing it, mostly in the car and mostly at my dog.
Ian, thank you for outstanding first speech. We still have another one coming from you, so if you already reached this level of excellence, we look forward to the next one.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
The thing about students like Wendy, right? Where is Wendy? There you are. Is sometimes in class you meet people early who are a little worried about how this is going to go. Is this going to work? How am I going to speak? Deliver podium speeches in front of all these people, and that there are a lot of things that are on my mind. But I find that as a trend, I think those students who come in being a little more fearful and working harder almost kind of overtake the others who come in very confident and feel this is just a forum for them to practice. So Ian, right from day one, you took this very seriously. You came out, you put in the effort, and that is shown. And Wendy, you too, very early on, in office hours after you wanted to create something that where the goal was given, it should make your grandchildren proud. Okay. 50 Shades of Feminism. Wendy Yu is our next speaker. She's also in the same section, the twice a week morning section for Arts of Communication, Spring 16. Wendy grew up in southern China, and then you spent some time in the Midwest, and then you found your way here, amongst other places. You were in sub-Saharan Africa for a while. see. And Wendy loves going up and also coming up. You like rock climbing and then you like scuba diving too. So let's have Wendy, you as a next.
More. When I asked my classmates what they thought of the word feminism, I got this. One person said, it's ladies in silver jewelry. They're loud academic types. They use vocabulary that I don't understand, and they seem really scary. Okay. Another person said, Beyonce, because she's awesome. So what's going on here? How can two very well-educated, well-rounded individuals have such different ideas on the same word? Is one more right than the other? Today, I want to give you my take on feminism, how the feminist movement came about, and how feminism now affects our struggle towards gender equality. First, what's feminism? According to Mary Hosworth, leading gender studies professor at Rutgers University, feminism is the idea that men and women have equal social, political, and economic rights. Sounds pretty simple enough. Well, how did the movement come about? In the US, women started to speak together collectively after taking part in the civil rights movement. They fought for universal suffrage and sought to debunk the idea that the perfect woman is a pious and submissive mother and wife whose only place belongs in the home. The second wave of feminism mostly identifies with rabble-rousers. They're individuals that marched down the streets of big cities and demanded better jobs, equal wages, and reproductive rights. Interestingly enough, standing up for gender equality at that time meant beating down male-dominated establishments, which over time became mistranslated into what we may now know as man-hating. So what does feminism look like now? Actually, there are many different images of feminism. Hillary Clinton stands for political power. Sheryl Sandberg fights for equal treatment in the workplace. And Beyonce legitimizes sexuality as female empowerment. But despite all of these different diversity, the media only accepts one facet of feminism as the right one and denigrates all others as illegitimate. Take Emma Watson. She became the spokesperson for UN Women last year and launched a worldwide campaign to break down stereotypes of feminism. Yet the media denigrated her credibility because, as they claimed, she, as a rich, white celebrity, can't possibly represent the struggles of single moms and multi-ethnic individuals. But I ask you this. Why can't Emma stand up for people like me who are female and multi-ethnic? Why can't she stand for all of us who want gender equality? In this Goliath battle to change our society, doesn't having one more David help us win the war? My main point is this. Feminism is an idea, not an image. I can stand before you and represent a strong female voice while wearing a dress. Emma Watson can defend all of her rights, even though she is white and we are yellow, brown, black, and all different colors of the spectrum. Women in silver jewelry are feminists just as much as the Beyoncés of the world. There's not just one shade, but 50 shades of feminism. Thank you.
Thank you, Wendy. Thoughts, comments?
Hi, Wendy.
Hi, Liz.
I missed your speech last time, and I'm so glad I caught it now. because what I really loved about it was the tone that you had. And I think, was it a speech to teach?
Yeah.
Yeah, because, sometimes with speech to teach, I know we're worried about like how it'll come over to the audience, and I think you carried it off perfectly. So,
Thank you.
Hi, Wendy.
Hi, Anga.
I actually saw like the first draft of the speech when we talked together in the Blakely common room, and then it's so amazing to see how your speech like ended up really well and really inspiring to others. So congratulations.
Wendy, thank you for recreating the speech. So we are 6 speakers down, and we have, this will go to the next speaker, but not now. You don't need to get mic'd up right now today, because we're going to go into a little bit of a kind break. Now, when I started teaching this class, I didn't think people would be motivated, so I armed myself with a lot of kind bars and power bars, and would try and bribe folks, and then I've been doing it, and then I guess after you persist for a while, sometimes luck shines on you. So one of the students, cross-registrant that we took in the class, in evening class, works for Kind. And then we said, we have these events, why not, can we get some bars for a large event like this? So we have an unofficial sponsorship by Kind Bar. So let's take about a short break, about 8 to 10 minutes before the next 5 speakers, and for each one of you, there's a Kind bar or 2 and a bottle of water outside. Okay, so we'll come back just in a few minutes. Okay.
Yeah, we're moving pretty quickly.
Very good to see you.
This one.
I still have not you have a job. I'm just not there yet. Every time I think
I do actually. I stuck my face with cheese nips.
Hey, thank you. Yeah, good.
And then they just give me snacks.
Yeah, I didn't tell you guys that Hill and I broke up. I figured the speech would be better. In my speech, I mentioned the breakout.
Nervous, really? I love this. I can solve our
Was it great at 5:30?
No, he wanted me to go first so that I could help with other. He was much faster than I was. Like, I thought he was going to do it much longer, but he put it down. Did you guys all just leave digital versions? Yeah. Max and I just gave our pitch first. Oh, okay. Sorry that. No. I wasn't. Actually, oh, good. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. That's good. She's great at that class. She's so good at that class. Like the things that she says are just awesome. Yeah. Art and kind bars.